Hey y'all, welcome back to Let's Talk About It with Courtney Carroll. I am your host, Courtney Carroll, your licensed therapist in Washington State and North Carolina State, as well as your connection coach, podcast host, all the fun things. I'm so glad to be back. It is just me this week, but first and foremost, thank you for the positive feedback from my friend Trish. Wasn't she amazing? Gosh, her story is so cool, and we're only going to learn more about her. I have never gotten more responses from a podcast episode besides the first episode than any of my other ones. It's probably one of the top viewed episodes I've put out this last year. And I'm so thrilled that she was my first guest. And your DMs and your messages and all of that mean the world to me. Keep shining the light as I got that, and how they connected to where we learn heartbreak, and it's just an exhilarating experience when you get the feedback back, because when you build content, you're not really sure what the response is going to be, right? I never knew. I had hoped my podcast would be successful. I would hope I would just help one person, and I came into this thinking, if I just help one person a week, that's enough. I'm not building a platform or doing this podcast. One, I do it for free. I'm not paid to do this. I always just have the highest intention of being able to help at least one person. And Trish coming on and being an amazing all-star that she is, she's touched a lot of lives last week, and I just think that's the coolest thing ever. She'll definitely be back. I have some girls lined up coming up, women, sorry, I shouldn't say girls. I have a few women coming up in the next few weeks, and I'm really excited to introduce them. Just like Trish, you're going to love them. They're amazing. And I did get messaged, and how, if you want to be on this podcast, please message me. Let's see if it's a good fit. If this is your first time ever, welcome. I do this almost every episode. There's no rehearsal before I hit play. There's no real solid plan outside of having an idea or concept that I want to talk about. And I feel like it's just really authentic, and it aligns with what I do. I try to treat these sessions like a therapy session. I don't really know what's going to happen, right? And I think that's the beauty of it. But today's pretty special to me. Today's episode 30. And I went back and forth. Do I bring someone on for this or do I not? And I just kind of landed on staying present with myself, and then the next ones will have my beautiful friends on. And I've been emotional this week, outside of just realizing this is touching lives, and getting those emails, messages, comments, and it just means a lot. It makes me feel like I'm doing something right. So I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to do it. So I had a lot of feedback from the episode with Trish, so I thought I would kind of highlight some stuff on what we learned early on and how we apply it. Not just the heartbreaks. Last week we talked about heartbreak and recognizing, well, if you haven't watched it, I'm going to give you a little debrief. Trish came on and she's like, I meditated and I came to this question on this meditation. Goes, who was the first person that broke your heart? And I think she was almost astonished a little bit that it wasn't a boy that she dated or someone. She goes, oh man, I learned that from my mom. She had a really fun day playing with her mom. Her mom was supposed to be off of work. She gets a phone call and the day is canceled. Mom's going into work. She didn't even need to be told. She just knew. The phone rang. Mom's leaving me. And very early on, she learned that people leave her. She created anxious attachment, which, as you guys know, if you've been paying attention, I struggled a lot with, especially a couple years ago. Even, sometimes it flares up. It triggers up sometimes, triggers up. It comes up. And what a beautiful thing to be aware of. And this week in my sessions, I try to record the end of the week. Today's Friday, because I try to see hey, what's kind of floating around, seeing if there's a theme. And I honestly think continuing last podcast makes the most sense, is learning things from our parents that we didn't mean to. And I have this belief that if how do I explain that? If we don't heal something or to create understanding of something, we repeat it or we continue to expect it. And there's a quote this week that kind of came out, like really, really like touched my heart. Oh man, I wasn't expecting to get emotional. I think I did a post about it actually the last couple days ago or something like that, where they called the wounded, like talking about wounded healers, how the wounded become the best healers. And it just really kind of like, I don't know, it was like almost like not deja vu, but like having like a flashback of like all the times I've been hurt and what I've chosen to do with it. And I'm very cognizant that there might be people that don't love my podcasts, especially like my exes or maybe some family. I'm exposing a lot here. I've never been so vulnerable in my life than I am on this podcast and sharing my content with y'all. And I think I've made it clear at this point, there is no malicious intent. I'm a very genuine person, and I am confident that anything I put out is to help. Any story I share is to help those that have gone through it, because I didn't have that resource all the time, especially as a young girl. There wasn't, well, podcasts didn't even exist. Let's be real, let alone like Audible stuff. I think they had like video cassette tapes of books and stuff, but like no one was introducing a 12-year-old girl to a self-help book. I literally just can say I survived a lot of it. And when you think back about what you learned from your parents, I truly believe majority of the time, and there are cases where if you don't identify or resonate with this, that's okay. I know there are cases where that's not true. But I do believe in my personal experience, nothing I learned from my parents or my exes, I don't think were super malicious. I don't think my biological mom, who fought drug addiction, thought, can't wait to abandon my kids. I don't think my dad, who worked his ass off to provide for his children, was malicious because he didn't have enough energy to spend quality time with us at night. I don't think any of my exes hated me so much they couldn't wait to cheat on me, lie to me, or whatever. And again, that might not be the case for you. I'm probably assuming like 80 to 90% of the cases it's not malicious. But there are people that are unhealed and are malicious. There are narcissists out there. There are malicious, mean people in the world. But I tend to believe it doesn't mean all of them are. In fact, I think majority are unhealed people. If people cheat on you and lie to you, the hardest part is to look, instead of looking like, fuck you, to look at, why would they do that? Why would they hurt me? Especially when, like, as a child, you truly unconditionally love your parent, right? I loved my mom as a kid. I still have so much love for my biological mom that's no longer with me, or Earthside, I guess that's a better way of saying it. Like, there was no part of me that really hated her. I didn't really understand her. And when my mom decided to abandon us and continue her drug addiction and the battles she faced, I now know as an adult that there was a reason why my mom chose drugs. You know, I believe there's abuse in her home and a lot of crazy stuff. And she used drugs and alcohol to deal with it. Her drug addiction really had nothing to do with me. And it's hard to say. Like, I can't say I've always thought this, but for sure, like, unhealed people still hurt people, right? The wounded healer, as I mentioned, heals people. The people that typically go into job roles such as mine, doctors, nurses, gosh, I have a couple HR clients and human resources and people that choose jobs to go help people are usually come from homes that they didn't get help from, or were taught to be very independent, right? I'm a millennial. Will be 37 this year, and something I believe my generation has in common is we were taught to be quiet, or to not really have strong opinions, or to keep to ourselves, to not be a light shining and talking about it, right? And I can only imagine what my parents did with that before me, right? I definitely think the kids were seen and not heard, and that generation before us was even stronger. But I was never taught to have an opinion that would be in conflict with my parents or my grandparents or any adult around me. I was taught to never second guess them unless they were the drug addict, right? And even then, I still needed to respect them. And that's wild, right? To think about now, and you're watching me create a podcast called literally Let's Talk About It, where everything's on the table. And I know I'm doing something different. But the fact is, if I don't, who will? And I tend to say this a lot, especially recently, where this is not for nothing. I did not get hurt. I did not go through these things for nothing. The last 4 years have been the hardest years of my life. And that's pretty wild to think about, right? Especially if you've watched the episodes about different parts of my childhood and everything. But not only was it hard because I am divorced, I moved across the country and had to break off an engagement to a person I love dearly, to becoming a single mom again, twice, to literally starting over, not just personally, not necessarily professionally, but definitely financially, of having to recover of a great loss again. And if I wanted to, like, a woe is me day, I'm like, what is going on here? How did I get here again? And the woman I was a couple years ago would have been like projected against the world, like these are just awful people. But the fact is, I now go inward, as I've been talking about. I go inside me. And I now can associate every fucking lesson and every person in my life as the best teachers I'll ever have. Yes, I'll say it again. Every lesson, every person that's hurt me are the best teachers I'll ever have. What we learn in childhood from our parents, if we are unhealed, we repeat. I'll say it again. If you are unhealed from anything that happened in your childhood, you will repeat it until you learn your lesson. And I have learned some lessons. And so I will teach and share with you. An individual I know really well had a pretty crappy mother growing up, very selfish and just really relied on men a lot, and would hide herself in relationships versus really healing herself and taking care of her children, right? She would hide in relationships versus growing and evolving and becoming a more powerful mom and provider, I guess, right? And so what this individual did is, well, of course, resent them and chose similar patterns. And this happens to a few of my clients, a few people in my personal life, and I know I did. I chose my relationships just as much as you chose me. I chose to stay in relationships longer after I didn't feel respected or treated well, because I was raised by a mom that taught me that. Guaranteed she only had about 10 years access to me, but what I learned is, love is hurtful, so let me go do it. And I would bet a lot of other people on the opposite side maybe instead of, gosh, how would I say this? I'm not lost for words. I'm just really articulating what to say. I'm going to do the same thing they did to me, to my children, or to my wife, or to learn not to really let anyone in and just focus and be, I don't want to say selfish, but like not be selfless, you know, to no one protected me, so I will only protect myself. Right? That's a good one. That's very common. Why would I let anyone in? They could hurt me. Or I'll cheat and lie until they leave me because everyone leaves me. Or if you're on the opposite side again, like we're at something island, and I'll stay because like I'm used to love staying in hard places. It wasn't until my dad pulled his children out and moved us we lived in Parkland, Washington, which I honestly I couldn't speak to like the safety of it now, but back then it was not safe, right? Not so much. And my dad's like, I'm getting my kids out of this place. And my mom was supposed to come. I think that was the idea. He'll have to let me know if that's wrong. And like he had to take us out of that situation to put it and then bring us over to Puyallup, Washington. And that's where I was raised at. And the reason why he did it is because he wanted more for us. I think that's what he'd say now. But more for us meant him not being really around. More for us meant he sacrificed a lot, right? And my sister had to step in as a caregiver and all these things. What I learned from my dad is to not run away. No, it's not right. But to really, like, to not be emotionally available. I'm sure I've said this everything. The one thing my dad brags most about me, I think, is that I'm so independent. Now, I'm probably the one kid he doesn't have to worry about. And if I ever go quiet or something, that might be when he reaches out to me. But isn't that crazy? And where do you guys think I learned that? I was the second youngest of 4 before my step siblings came in, which I don't ever really say step. I'm just using this for context. I learned not to need anything or rely on anyone. I think that's something I learned early on. And by the way, when he came home, I knew not to ask questions. Or if I did want something, I was told, like, I'm spoiled or whatever else. I'm sure I've shared in episodes. And, like, he's bragged about that being, like, his, like, something for men to know about me. And for, like, I think he takes pride in it. Which, I mean, you guys, I've become successful. I have 3 degrees. I have an associate's, bachelor's, a master's degree. I was able to eventually leave a marriage that was very unhealthy and start over, and another relationship and start over. And I will 150% figure shit out. But it's not because I want to. In my perfect world, I would still be married to my ex-husband. We would have never had the issues we had that brought us to a divorce. My daughter would have a mom and a dad. And me and my ex would have a loving relationship where we healed together. Where we both took anything that we learned from our childhood and either went to therapy or sought out treatment or whatever else so that we don't repeat anything that happened from our childhood into our adult lives. The thing is, it didn't happen, obviously, and I can't live in that coulda, woulda, shoulda thing. I actually told a client this the other day. I'm like, that's a dangerous place to live, in the woulda, coulda, shoulda. But to take everything that's happened as lessons, as I've said. My wounds, my recoveries, they are what taught me. And I don't resent them anymore. I know that's pretty crazy. How do you not resent your mom for abandoning you? How do you not resent your parents not having enough time to spend a ton of quality time with you? How do you stop resenting the ex that cheated on you, lied to you, and betrayed you for a decade? or more? And how do you not be mad at your ex for the things he put you through financially and emotionally? Because I got something out of all of it. If I didn't, or if I was unhealed, if I didn't do the therapy, if I didn't do the work, if I didn't go inward and seeing like, what am I, like, that's the biggest question I tell you to do is, if you just got dumped or your partner cheated or gosh, something bad happened at work. If you go inside and you're like, what can this teach me? What am I needing to learn? Why is this triggering me? Then like, that is a struggle. I have every reason to be mad at the world. I do. Anyone that knows me knows that. I have every reason to not want love again. And I have every reason to not share my story. Right? Like, I could be private and not tell you any of this, and I would be fine. I would probably still have a successful private practice, and I would be okay. But the fact is, I learned when we don't talk about things, if we don't share our stories, if we don't share our wounds, maybe someone else won't either. And how do you really know you need help? How do you really know like that this is love or not love, right? Again, you heard my story. Like, I learned young that love was hard. And I married a hard person to like show me love. That is not coincidence. That is a pattern or a lesson being shown to me. I no longer tolerate any behavior or anyone that talks down to me, right? That doesn't mean I can't take criticism, because I can. That doesn't mean I'm aware that people won't like my content. But that does mean I no longer think that that's love. And I keep saying that, so I feel like I need to say that again. Love is not pain. But each person, if you can look back in your life, whether it was your mom, your dad, a sibling, sister, brother, maybe a cousin, close family friend, relationships, I can go back to each one of them and tell you what it taught me. And again, my independence came from parents that weren't able to be emotionally available, so I learned not to rely on many people. It is a double-sided sword, right? Because I can figure things out by myself. I don't technically need anyone, but I do want someone. I do want love in my life. And what I've learned more than anything is I now understand what love is, so I won't accept anything less. A lot of people don't grasp that. A lot of people continue the story or repeat the pattern. Your parent was crappy, so you become a crappy parent. Your parent was unavailable, so you're less available. Your parent was selfish and prioritized their own life and their own needs, so you do it to your kid. Or if you don't have kids, you do it to your relationships. You want it to be all about you, so you go ahead and date people that might be wounded and think that that's great because that's all you have to give and that's all they know that is available, right? And I hope that makes sense for you. But I think the biggest thing I want to tie in as we wrap up in the next few minutes is we repeat what we know or we heal it and fix it. Just because you learned love a certain way does not mean you can deconstruct that. You know, going back to anxious attachment, I told y'all on the podcast, like I'm open to dating again, and I'm not dating a lot, and I can pick up anxious attachment a lot quicker. Or I think I said it last week, like love bombing, like that's crazy. My first experience to it was actually gave me a panic attack. I'm like, why are they doing that? They don't even know me. These people are weird. Dating's weird. Again, still open to it, but it doesn't mean it's like natural. And when I realized I was starting to heal is when I wasn't anxious. I don't worry about anyone texting me or communicating back with me. I was on the phone call with my best friend, Morgan. She's amazing. So my best, I talked about this scene last week, I think on the podcast episode with Trish, where I learned like there was this guy I went on a date with, first time going on a date with him. We had mutual friends. It was a great date. And then, but during the date, he had said something like, "Are you mad I didn't text you today?" I was like, out of the blue, guys. It was weird. And I said that last week too. And I'm like, I didn't even think about you texting me today. You said, "Good morning. We have plans for tonight. I'll see you tonight." Got my hair done. Got it chopped off. And we had dinner plans. And I worked. I don't have time to like think about my phone. And he like would not believe me. It took him like, I think me saying it 2 times, like, I literally did not think about you not texting me. And I'm like, oh wow. I think like 6 months or a year ago that I would have been like, why isn't he texting me? Because that anxious attachment would come in, and I'm assuming he's probably dating someone or has dated someone with anxious attachment, or he might have anxious attachment, right? And I think of like, what's not healed there? Because I used to be like that until I really went inward, and I'm like, this isn't about my ex, this isn't about my other exes, this isn't about my parents. Like, why am I responding? Like, why do I feel like I need someone to text me when they have full-time jobs or kids or whatever else? If you are constantly waiting on someone to text you, or you are all pissed or, gosh, fried out, I don't even know the right way of saying it because no one's communicating with you. Where did you learn like you need constant communication to feel safe? Again, what can we learn from this? I've been really clear the last couple weeks on working with your nervous system. And the fact that Trish came on and we talked about our first heartache, and where we learned how to love people and show love to people. And that and again, today I'm teaching you. I feel like I'm teaching today. Like, did I repeat that thing? Do I repeat the thing I didn't love as a kid? And if I do, can I change it? And if I want to change it, if I don't want to be anything like that parent, or if I do want to be more like my parent, like, how can I do that? The first resource is maybe just like write it out. Like, what did my parents teach me about love? And then asking yourself, maybe even looking into a mirror and asking yourself, like, do I do this? And if you do and you don't like it, that's the first step, acknowledging. And by that, I'm already proud of you. And I hope you're proud of yourself. That's what I say to my daughter. I rarely say I'm proud of her. My first instinct is always say, are you proud of yourself? Especially she's so freaking smart. And she'll always say, yeah. And then I'll say, me too. I'm proud of you too. Acknowledging the issue, or acknowledging where you learned something's the first step. You had no control of how you learned these things. You were exposed. Exposure therapy, right? Like, you were exposed to these things from your elders, your parents, the relationships around the years. But what I can tell you right now is the only person that's responsible for it, you couldn't help what happened to you. But you get to choose on what heals you. And you get to choose on what you repeat. I know so many people like, if only my parents would fix themselves. We can't ask them to do that. Some of them I wish they did. But just because you were hurt and you were targeted, or like whatever you went through, is no excuse to not get healed. You are a grown adult. You are responsible for the healing. I'm so sorry for the wreckage. I'm so sorry for what you've gone through. And I mean it. I mean it with my whole heart. I'm really sorry that you went through hard times. But it is not their responsibility to repair it. It is yours. Everything you have learned about love, everything I've learned about love, I couldn't control. I couldn't. I wasn't young enough to understand. And I can't go back, rewind, and woulda, coulda, shoulda, as I said earlier. But what I can do is every day get better than I was yesterday. My parents aren't responsible for healing something that they taught me. I am. You are a young kid. I am not talking to you. If you are under the age, gosh, I'll even go 21. I am not talking to you. I do think that parents with kids are the responsible person to adolescents and teens and maybe even very young adults, if you're listening to this podcast, I hope you fix it. And if you don't know where you went wrong or why your kids don't talk to you, there's some acknowledgement there. If your kid doesn't talk to you, there's a reason why. And instead of blaming them or getting mad, where did you contribute to this? And do you want to repair it or do you not want to repair it? If you want it to change, it has to start with you. We live in a society, oh God, that was bad, where we expect everyone else to do the work, but we rarely do the work. Oh my gosh. And there's this thing where, this quote that I just love, I can't remember where it's from. If you know who said it first, to hashtag or DM me or message me, and I will give credit where credit is due always. Where I remember reading this is, people all the time say they will die for their kids, and they rarely live for their kids. I do believe any parent would take a bullet for their kid, but would they heal and change their patterns and how they conduct life and become responsible and change their ways so that their kids don't repeat what they did? That's up to you. It's up to me. And it's the hardest work I've ever done. It's still some of the hardest work I help people do. And I always start with, like, I'm not talking shit about the parents. I love your parents. I'm talking about what did you learn from them, though? And then I have to remind them their parent isn't my client, that they are. That we can't go back and redo and have their parents fix, even though I'm sure a lot of them want me to. But we can say, what did I learn that I don't like, that I never want to repeat? I will be so honest. I think the biggest thing I struggled with as a kid is not to feel like a priority. And bless my parents, I was one of 6. Bless it. Like, there's no way they had that energy. And they both worked. My stepmom and my dad worked. And I had an unhealed drug addict mom. She had no capacity to really love on me and prioritize me. She, I think, prioritized my biological mom. I think she prioritized herself and to be alive, and instead of going to therapy, getting work, maybe going to rehab. And if you're struggling with addiction and you know it, the first thing you can do is check yourself into fucking rehab. And if you have family and friends, I hope you have the resources to be able to pay for it. And if not, there are a lot of good options for you too. But I cannot go back and hold my hand and bring my mom into rehab. I can't force anyone to change. But what I learned from not really feeling prioritized, or when I did speak up about wanting quality time or more attention, to be called spoiled or entitled, which I'm sure it did feel like that to my parents. I'm sure it did. Like, if you want more from me, like, what more do we have? And I send my parents so much love to those days. I do. Like, I truly think they did the best they could with what they had. But the number one thing I do in my life, my daughter's always number one. And I remember I had my first therapist, Anahita. She's amazing. She transformed my life. And she probably doesn't even know that. Oh gosh, that's emotional too. She had told me a long time ago, when you have kids, you're going to see what kind of healing happens. She's very adamant of not to have kids just to heal, but to heal, do the work. And once you have kids, you even get more healing. And what I learned most with my beautiful daughter, that I think is pure magic, she will never not feel like, she's always my priority. She is my number one. She will never doubt that mommy loves her. She will never have to hopefully ask me, for quality time. And she'll never understand what it's like to have an absent parent with me as a mom. And I can only speak of me being the mom. I'm only responsible for me. Just like you're only responsible for you. If you're the dad, you're only responsible for you. If you're married, you keep each other accountable, right? But not having that mom around, I knew this was my biggest priority with my daughter. I will sacrifice vacations. I will sacrifice time. I will have a limited social calendar so that my daughter always feels loved. And that's the best thing. I think that's probably my proudest thing. And not because of my daughter, but because of how I healed for her and how she's changed my life. And if you don't have kids, like, that's a hard thing to resonate with, right? Or if you do want kids, do the healing. I've had couples over the years try for having a baby, and sometimes they get upset, like it's taking longer. And I've also been with those people through IVF and everything too, so don't give up. But I always challenge them again to that quote, what can you do for them now before they're earthside, right? Are you willing to go to therapy? Are you willing to heal your childhood stuff before you have them? Because maybe that's the ticket to get them. Maybe, if you can't control, we can't control how fast or how our bodies react to everything, but we can control. Would we do something for them now before they're even here? I had no choice after my divorce to go to therapy. I had no choice in my head to not take care and heal and learn. And I'm still constantly healing and learning more about myself so that I don't have to teach my daughter these things, or that maybe she doesn't have to learn them as hard as I did. So as we kind of in this session in our podcast episode, go back, just like Trish and I talked about last week. What did you learn from your parents about love, or whoever raised you? That could be a grandparent, an aunt and uncle, adoption, whoever those are. And who are all the people that were around you that taught you things? Even your exes, relationships, first marriages, second marriages, whoever else. What's the common themes? Where do you see it? And then my call to action, because let's have one, right, is to stop blaming everyone. Should they be accountable because they hurt you? Sure, of course. Duh. Of course I want them accountable. But at the end of the day, they are not responsible for your healing. You are. And I know you can do it. I really do. I believe in you. I'm saying it from someone that's constantly in it. I am not perfect, but and I'm not striving for perfection. But anytime something pops up or something tells me, like a trigger warning, I try to lean in and listen to it. And I can't blame anyone else for the pain. Because they're not responsible for the repair. I am. No one is responsible for the repair or the healing other than you. And even though I know life was unfair and you had no control, you are responsible. I hope this episode resonates with you. I hope you can see different parts of your life where you can be like, I can see this or I can see that. Or, oh, I hate that I'm doing the thing my mom or dad did. You can course correct anytime. You can course correct anytime and get on the right path, whatever path you want to be. It is not too late. If you show up in relationships and you're just always like the one that like bends over and does everything for the relationship and don't expect anything back, look at that. You should expect things back from a relationship, especially a marriage and a partnership. There are so many viewpoints here. And y'all, we have some good guests coming soon. And I hope by opening up, sharing my stories, that it just helps you. And I hope that above anything else, you're loved and cared for and worthy of healing. And if you don't want to do it alone, you don't have to. You can check out my websites, CourtneyCarroll.com, book a coaching session with me, or at Waymark Counseling if you're in North Carolina or Washington State. WaymarkCounseling.com, I'm pretty sure. And if I'm not your person, I will do my best to help you find someone that is. That is what I believe my job is for. You are not behind. And if this resonates, I'm so honored that it does. And take time to process. Maybe re-listen to this later. Maybe I hit some strings and I hit some bumps and then you're like, oh, I don't like that because it got you something. Or hey, what if I don't want to change? Okay. What if I'm not ready to heal? Courtney, I might be able to recognize that that my parents aren't responsible for my healing as an adult, but I still don't have to like it. I don't like it for you. But the reality of the end of the day, we are the ones that can do something about it. You can do something about it. We can't make anyone do anything. And that's something I learned as a therapist and as a person on this world, as a human being. I can't force anyone to do anything, even if I might have a better idea what would help. I can't force my clients to do anything. They have to choose. And so do you. So I am going to let you have a beautiful weekend. Thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for the DMs, the comments, the likes. I like, it's so, you guys make it worth it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, we're going to have some good episodes coming up. We got some beautiful women coming through, and you're just going to love them. And thank you again for loving on my beautiful friend Trish and bringing her into our space and seeing what kind of connected and resonated. It means the world. Okay. Well, until next time, guys, have a good weekend.